Hello, my name is David Penner, and this is my Module 13 case study for EDL 850, School of Law, and it covers the copyright and the computer regulations that govern technology. So let's summarize the case study. This takes place at a school. It's called St. Regis. It's in a local, or it's located in a rural area, 25 miles to the closest town. Mr. Sample is the main character. He's the principal of this K through 8 school. He's in his third year of being the principal. We know that for him, he's from outside the area, and it's been hard for him to make some relationships with those community members, as they are a pretty close-knit group of people. It is a K through 8 building with approximately 420 students. We know that funding for this district is pretty limited, and that the school itself relies on the PTA in order to raise funds for their additional needs. We also know that the PTA puts on 2 fundraisers per year in order to supply those needs. The school went ahead and used the funds that were raised in order to purchase 20 new computers and software that is needed for the classrooms. Miss Lynn had the teachers list what software programs they needed for each level, and then she went about finding those software programs. Initially, the computers were used for lab use only, and the teachers could sign up and schedule a time to come down to the library in order to use the computers. However, in an effort to get the computers more available and in the classroom, Miss Lynn went ahead and illegally copied software for the classroom use. She did this with the help of Miss Evans, who was the head of the PTA. When these illegally copied CDs were presented to third grade teachers, Miss Brandon, one of the third grade teachers, was concerned and brought about the infringements on copyright law, and then also reported this to Mr. Sample, the principal. So let's look at the legal and ethical issues within this case. First, the legal issue is that we violated copyright law in order to make those illegal copies of the software. Miss Lynn, in her efforts to try to readily supply the software to the other teachers, violated this copyright. And so what this can lead to is substantial fines from the software company, and maybe even a potential lawsuit. Ethical concerns in this case are going to be that the school and the staff members, by having these illegal copies, are setting a bad example for the students and community. By copying the software, it is essentially stealing from the software company. And now that the issue is reported to the principal, it's up to him to actually go about acting upon this issue. So to synthesize what's going on in this case, by making copies of the purchased software, Miss Lynn has violated copyright law, which then now puts the school and its staff at risk for a potential lawsuit. So let's look at the facts. People involved in this are going to be Keith Sample, who's the principal and now aware of the issue; Miss Lynn, who was the librarian and made the illegal copies of the software; Miss Brandon, who is a new teacher, third grade level, and is from out of district, and she knew that this was not going to be compliant with copyright law; and then Miss Evans, who is the head of the PTA and was there with Miss Lynn making these copies. Place, once again, this is a rural community, so they're close-knit. A lot of the people previous to Mr. Sample coming were involved in the school as well. It's St. Regis School. It's a K through 8 building, and there's about 420 students. The program that are going to be affected by this is going to be the third grade program as well, as Miss Brandon is just one of the 2 teachers in the third grade. The software company that's involved in this as well, we don't necessarily know what software or what companies were the software actually copied from, but we know that there's several different programs that were copied. And then finally, the PTA, or the district PTA, was involved in this as well. So let's review and prioritize. What's most important in this? As a principal, I think the most important thing is that we are compliant with the law. What does the law state about copyright, and how are we going about following that? And in this case, there is a clear violation of that copyright law. Although the effort was great to get more copies readily available for the students and the teachers, we got to worry about being compliant with the law first. Second would be education. What kind of education are we providing to these students? Yes, it sounds like we need more computers. It sounds like we need more copies of that program, or the programs that are needed at each grade level. However, we cannot set a bad example of what's acceptable in this case. Third, we can look at the relationship of our staff members. It's important that as a staff, we're on the same page. It seems like there's a group of teachers that are in support of making these illegal copies, and there's also a group of teachers that are concerned with these copies as well. And then last, we can worry about the relationship with the community and the stakeholders, and in this case, the PTA, making sure that we're all on the same page there as well. So what are our options? Our options in this case, first, are to take no action whatsoever. In this, if we go about taking no action, Miss Lynn continues to make the illegal copies. As a principal, we just ignored the fact that she's doing this. The classes and the teachers that get their copies would have those available for their classes and their use. The school and the principal in this case are going to still be liable for any legal consequences if they were to be caught by those software companies. The most comprehensive, or on the other side of the spectrum, will be to collect all the illegal copies and destroy them, contact the software company to buy additional licenses, reprimand Miss Lynn for her making those illegal copies, and explain to the staff what's important about copyright law and how we go about not infringing upon that. Report these violations to the superintendent, as he is in charge of the whole district wide and needs to be aware of this issue. Explain to the PTA the illegality of the issue so that they know why we're going about or taking these steps, and then also help create a district-wide acceptable use policy so that this does not take place in the future. And then an intermediate option that is somewhere between those two would be to still reprimand Miss Lynn for her illegal copies, allow for those copies to continue to be used until we actually have the money, whether that's through fundraising or purchasing the software programs, and then make sure that the staff is aware of how we'll go about doing this in the future, so that, once again, we don't have to worry about making these illegal copies. So let's look at the pros and the cons of each one of these plans. First off, if we take no action, the pro would be that the classrooms and the students get their software. It's available for them to use right away. The con of that is it violates copyright law, and as a principal, we and the teachers, potentially the teachers, are going to be liable for this use. If we go with the most comprehensive plan, that pro of that would be we actually get right with the law and don't have to worry about any legal violation. Principal is no longer liable as well, which is good. We cover our butts there. And then we set a clear standard for acceptable use moving forward within our district. The con of this is we're going to have no copies available for the classroom. However, we can wait on that, and there'll be some waiting time before we actually get those purchase license from the software companies. The intermediate option, the pros of that is going to be there's still going to be punishment dealt out, and so the standard is still going to be somewhat upheld. However, the classrooms get to keep their copies. We're not punishing the students, and the software gets to be used until we actually have the program, the official program, show up for our classroom use. The con of that is we are still technically violating copyright law until those programs actually show up. the principal and the teachers are still liable as well. So, what's the best solution? As a principal, I believe you have to act. You can't just go with no action. And so, I think that Miss Lynn understands that what she was doing was wrong. I do think that she had good intentions, and so she doesn't necessarily need to be fired, but she does need some reprimandation. That could be in the form of a formal write-up or even a short suspension for these actions. I do believe that Miss Evans and the PTA needs to be aware of the illegality of this issue, and it should be explained to them as to why we're acting in the way we are. It also should be our job to contact the software company, buy those additional licenses that are needed. And if we don't have any funds at the moment, then we need to find a way to raise money to buy those or to purchase those licenses. Finally, we need to let our staff know about this scenario and how it will be handled in the future, so they're made aware of what our policy is. So how do we go about implementing this decision? I think it's important to review the copyright law with the staff, set a standard on how this situation will be handled for the future, make them aware of what the law actually says and how they are legally held to that. I think it's important that we destroy all the illegal copies of this software. So take those CDs, destroy them so that we're no longer using that within our classrooms, and get rid of the consequences that can fall on those teachers as well. We need to create the district acceptable use policy so that everybody knows the standard from here on out on how to use technology and the software that's with it. And then I think we have to have a discussion with our district administration on any future software needs. I know that the district is bigger than just our one school and our one town, so maybe we can work with them in order to purchase software that can be used throughout the whole district. If that's not the case, then we need to talk with our PTA and talk with them about fundraising needs or ideas in which we can raise maybe the funds for our own purchase of those software programs. Thank you for watching.